Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, on behalf of your Denver-based podcast crew, we appreciate you joining us for the Friendly Vibes.
Coming to you live. Man, when I open that in front of the mic, it does not like it. It's like, that's too much noise.
I liked it.
It's a hot one, folks, because we've got a fun guest here in Top Shelf Studio, someone I've been eager to sit down with. A new resident of Denver, Colorado, stand-up comedian, founder, proprietor of the Gateway Comedy Show, where comics tell jokes, then get high, and then continue to try to tell jokes high. Is that about the premise?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Billy Anderson in all his glory is here. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Is it gauche to clap for yourself? I don't know.
Oh, if things were gauche, that would be our show. Welcome to the Gauche Network.
Gauchecast.
Gauchecast is not a bad name for a show, honestly.
I've heard worse.
Yes, lots worse. Like Intolerable. Thanks for being here, brother. You're from the Pacific Northwest, is that right?
That's why I started comedy. I'm from the Southeast. So exact opposite. I looked at a map and was like, where's the furthest place I can get away? And I grew up in Georgia.
In Georgia?
Yeah.
Wow. In rural area, in the city?
Augusta, so it's like fourth largest city, if that means anything.
So is that I mean, I feel like you have to learn golf at some point. It feels like me being this tall, they'd force us into basketball.
Sure, fair. I mean, if I was rich, that's like exclusively a rich thing. They're so rich they were allowed to exclude women for years beyond when you would have expected them to.
Got it. So it's a classist thing.
Yeah,
there.
it's super bad.
Wow.
Literally, a lot of the city near there, like North Augusta, Georgia, downtown, they'll leave during the Masters because you can rent your house out during that week for such an exorbitant amount. You go, why would I stay here? And then a bunch of places jack up prices and stuff. So you're like, I'll just leave. And
this episode will come out on tax day. And here's a fun tax fact. Because the residents of Augusta left their house and started renting them so much, they lobbied, those classists, high class people lobbied the government and said, hey, we need a tax deduction for this. So they made the Augusta rule, where up to 14 days a year, if you own your home, you can rent out that home tax free.
Really? If you were bullshitting right now, I'd believe you either way.
It's
you
true.
said it confidently enough that if you were just making it up, I'd be like, oh, I'm not even going to double check.
So you don't even have to be in Georgia or Augusta. If you own a home anywhere in the United States, you can rent it for up to 14 days a year without paying taxes on the income you get from that rental.
Well, it's good. You know, I've always said the hyper rich need more tax breaks.
Gosh, man, they go through it, man. They're like crawling through mud and then pushing rocks up hills. It's a tough existence for them.
I mean, they're just better than us.
Better at being born in the right body or whatever. Yeah, God. In the circumstance. Oh, Lord, the circumstance.
Yeah.
So you grew up in not an affluent family then?
No, not at all. We were, when I was younger, like food stamp poor. Wow. Very working class. Like my dad was an electrician. My mom became a nurse while I was younger. Which eventually leads to money. So like my younger siblings did a lot better than I did.
Are you the oldest?
I am the eldest, yeah.
Wow. How many siblings?
I have two. I have one full brother, one half brother. Full brother's 4 years younger. Half brother's 14 years younger.
Wow.
Both of them had a lot better of an experience with it all than I did.
Well, you got to pave the trail to make their lives easier,
yeah,
right?
No, I was a part of that. I was a part of the testing phase.
Yeah. Guinea pig, they called me.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. So you were in not affluent schools. Were you getting into trouble as a kid then? Because of this kind of working class family?
I mean, it depends on how old we consider kid. I think I was a fucking square until 14, 15 years old.
Then you were a rhombus.
And then I was a bit of a rhombus, yeah. I was leaning a bit. Yeah, I mean, I did okay. I never got caught, I guess is what I'd say. I never got caught for anything, but I dropped out of high school.
Whoa.
Yeah, I dropped out of high school. I was like, I'll see you later,
Tell
nerds.
me about that. What leads to that?
So I was an honor student up until 9th grade, and then I just became like, the only way, I wouldn't have described it this way then, but I would be like, I just kind of became like a nihilistic teenager where I was like, what does it all mean? 9/11 happened, blew up my worldview. I'm like, what is any of this? So...
How old are you now?
I'm 38, so 9/11 was when I was like 13, 14 years old, and after that, I'm like, fucking, this America. It was when I like the idea of what America was got blown up, and I'm like, well, if we're just gonna go over there and kill people, whatever, man. Like, there was a lot of big thoughts without a lot of research, and I mean, not that I disagree with the thoughts, but they weren't well researched at all. It was just a lot of like, whatever.
Yeah, frustrated at the world, that black nihilistic.
I'm not gonna go overseas, man.
Lose my life for a guy.
Yeah.
Something named Bush. That's a plant, man. That's not a guy.
But here I am nostalgic for him. Life makes fools of us all eventually.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I think if I would have been 13 or 14, because 9/11 is like one of my first memories. Like I was 4. My dad was a pilot in the air, and that's probably the only reason I remember it. But yeah, if I was 14, 13, I would have gone, Chris can vouch for this, I would have gone full deep into that nihilism. I was already hit it, so
I was on the East Coast, so like it happened while I was at school. They wheeled out the like movie day TV.
Why did they do that?
Because they didn't know what it was, and then so the first tower got hit, and they're like, "Isn't this crazy, kids?" And then the second tower hit, and they turned it off, and they're like, "Okay, we don't watch this anymore." All kids are just like, "Holy shit!" But what I found was that every person I knew was like, what if they bomb Augusta? And even, I think I was in 9th grade, and I was just like, we're probably pretty far down the list, guys. You know, like, we're probably not.
Military bases. Yeah, it's the best golf course.
I mean, there is a Savannah Riverside, there's a nuclear power plant out there, and there is a Fort Gordon thing. But even then, I would be like, we're at least 30th. Like, right. I think we could go down. I think I can make a good argument that if we're on the list at all, we're not on the first page.
Yeah. No matter how small the font, they want to.
I'm not gonna gaslit somebody. There's no reason they would bomb a nuclear power plant. Just I feel like there's others they'd hit first.
I mean, we grew up in Colorado. We had NORAD and Air Force. We knew we were toast.
That was also around the time that I became I gave up religion. I was raised Catholic, so it was just a lot of that
fist bump.
It was a lot of
you can see it in the eyes of people if they're raised Catholic.
Oh, the sadness, yeah, and the alcoholism, both a mixture of both. Yeah, so I dropped out, which is a point of pride for me in a lot of ways because I've done fine for myself. Like I think if you'd taken the kid I was in 9th grade and then progressed him into college, I would have gotten an art degree and I would have been in a lot of debt.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have made good choices at all. So in a lot of ways, it was the best. Like I dropped out, I got my GED like 3 days later, went and started working at the age of 17.
Were you like a 10th grade, 11th grade? What?
I was in 11th grade. Okay. I'd already graduated from because I was in honors class, so I'd graduated like social studies and I'd do like English and things. It's funny that be the thing I can't remember the word of. But English and all that stuff. So like I just looked at like the half year that I had left and I was like, I don't give a fuck about chemistry. I don't give a shit about math at all, and I just don't want to be here anymore. So I just went and got a job.
Klube behind the production desk there. Very similar kind of story of he, I don't know about honor student to start. Were you an honor student? You were back in the day, right? You were pretty smart.
I had a decent GPA. I don't think I was an honor student.
Yeah. You know, you can just tell people they'll never be able to check. You could be like, I actually was the smartest kid in class. How are they ever going to fucking confirm it, dude?
Chris was the valedictorian after 9th grade.
They said it was so sad because he was going to be valedictorian. But he said, I got to give other people a chance to succeed.
It was so selfless of him to step aside. Yeah.
It was actually, he did it for everyone else, yeah.
Prudence leadership, that's what it is.
They actually put him in the yearbook as hero.
That's why no one saw his picture. It's listed under the ages.
It just had an American bald eagle as his picture. And people knew. They're like, there he is.
That's Chris.
That's how when I close my eyes and think of Chris, that's what I think of.
Oh my goodness. Most people
do. A heroic, beautiful American bald eagle.
I could only aspire to be thought of as a majestic bald eagle. Yeah. Have you seen those things in real life? It's so cool. Isn't it just, it's trippy.
I get why they'd look at that and they'd be like, yeah, America. That's America.
It's one of those only animals where there's few animals where you like have a visceral reaction at 100 yards away from them.
Yeah.
You see it, you're like, wow.
You're like, caw.
Yeah, dude. It awakens something in you.
Wasn't it almost the turkey? Am I misremembering that?
So close to being the turkey.
That'd be so funny.
I think it was
Benjamin. We just slaughter our national bird every year. That's amazing.
That would have been the most American thing.
Yeah. We consume it.
That would have been so American.
If somebody cooked a bald eagle and gave it to you, they'd already cooked it, would you eat it?
No. I think it's a felony to kill bald eagles.
Oh, you're being a pussy. I'd eat it. They already killed it and they already cooked it. I'm not going to let you. It's ruder to let it go to waste.
Yeah. I mean, hey.
Although I'd probably eat human if that was the logic.
Yeah, it's a slippery ethical scope.
That's a fun question. I'd be like, what's the animal you'd draw the line at? I'm like, I don't think I would. If it's already dead and it's already cooked, I think I'd eat anything.
Are there garnishes?
That's how I feel when they're doing they're making the meat in the labs now.
Oh God, synthetic
and I'm like,
meat.
Well, they could make synthetic human meat. That's a zero ethical issues, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I
that's
don't want to, but I would.
I mean, it's a really great
If they were like,
illustration
yeah,
of how dumb the
this is a-
synthetic meat argument is.
This is a Dave burger. Yeah. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, you got to try Tina.
Tina, man. It's a little more lean.
She had a horrible diet. It's so good.
Oh my goodness, dude.
But anyway, yeah, I dropped out.
Okay. And so from there you got a job, you said?
Yeah, I was working at a call center. I worked in a call center for years.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my main pre-stand-up job. Is I was working for Comcast then, and then I worked for T-Mobile for years.
Just
like
customer service
from
side.
when like the first iPhone came out for years. And
Wow.
I loved it. People complain about it, but I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways it was proto stand-up.
Yeah, because you're working on human interactions just over the course every single day.
I'll take it a step further. You have a script that you have to hone yourself. They'll give you the idea of what to do, much like in stand-up. You know the idea of a joke. Then you have to cater it to your own voice and the way you handle things. You have to then take that script and try to come up with a way to say it as quickly as possible because you're being judged by your time frame there. And I would write little jokes and stuff. Like one of my proudest things, I got a fucking award for it because T-Mobile's horrible, but they had these $15 mobile number change fees. They still do. And the key is there's no cost to them. They do it to fuck you, is why they do it. And so
What is the fee for?
For changing your number, mobile number change, like when you change your phone number.
Okay.
So when somebody'd call and they do that, I would just take a big swing and I'd be like, break up with an ex or like, something like, because there's nobody's just changing it for no reason. So I'd be like, okay. And then I'd explain them everything. And then I'd go, okay, well, we have to charge you a $15 mobile number change fee, but just consider that a crazy ex-girlfriend tax. If you never date anybody like that, you never have to deal with it. And nobody ever complained because they just made it fun, So I feel like a lot of the like early stand-up ideas were still being used in customer service.
Yeah, I love that, how the way you approach that with your mind. Because I'm young and I see it in a long run fashion of like, oh, if I love this thing and this is part of me, it's like, damn it, I'm going to have to do it forever and want to do it forever. So it's like,
I wanted to do stand-up for years before I did it.
Oh, really?
Years. It took me like 5 years to work up the nerve.
Wow. Were you writing jokes at that point?
I was one of those people. I would go to a party and I would just watch things and I would tell people, oh, you should have been there. XYZ happened. And so that was like, again, to say like proto stand-up again, it was very similar to that, to the point where like parties people like, Billy, tell them about, so-and-so. And it would be, I didn't think of it at the time, but it was really just a form of stand-up. And I was in Augusta. There were no open mics. There was nowhere to do stand-up at all.
Were you watching at this point? How old are you?
I watched stand-up my whole life.
Okay.
I mean, at 38, I was at the prime age for Comedy Central Presents when it was like culturally super relevant. They used to, you're probably too young to know, but like they used to just air it for 8 hours, just back to back to back. And then they would do like, go to this website and vote for your favorites. And then the next week they would air in order of popularity.
Wow.
So you would all, and then the Comedy Central had at the time, and I don't believe they don't even exist anymore, but you would do like a premium blend type thing. They would take a clip. If you were popular there, they'd give you a Comedy Central Presents. If that was popular, they'd give you an hour. If your hour was popular, they'd help you to develop a television show with them.
Wow.
So they had so if you liked a comic,
like
you would be able to
baseball system.
You would almost follow them,
Wow.
That's Daniel Tosh. That's his entire career. He had a good early clips. He had a great Comedy Central Presents. He had an amazing hour, and then Tosh.0 came out of that.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. That's cool.
So if you're a big stand-up comedy fan, there was a long time to like just follow before social media became as much of a thing. It was really easy to follow someone.
Because you saw them in the pipeline of that farm system of whatever
they would develop a fan base, and then they would benefit off of it. So that was cool.
Wow. Was it better than the music industry was when they were like, because it seems like Tosh is huge and had done well for himself and whatnot.
My argument's always been stand-up comedy. If you look at what's going on in the music industry, stand-up comedy is just 20 years behind it at all times. In every way, at that time, the music industry would have been like early 2000s. They were really pushing new metal onto us, which I was a big fan of. I'm going to trash it really bad here, but I was a huge fan of it. I've always said it's the worst genre I've ever loved. And And I feel like,
Wait, can I ask, what is new metal?
oh, I love this. Okay.
No, but
it's called butt rock now, I think, is what people would consider. Disturbed is new metal. Linkin Park is the Led Zeppelin of new metal.
Oh, well, I love new metal.
Yeah.
Linkin Park's great.
But Linkin Park was...
I mean, I'm sorry, there's a small part of my heart that loves Linkin Park.
There's a huge part of I would argue Hybrid Theory is an amazing album that people are now rediscovering. It's like on TikTok, they're rediscovering Hybrid Theory, that first Linkin Park album.
Right.
And people are like, what the fuck is it? Because nothing has ever been quite like it. Linkin Park was so good that the music industry went out and found everybody that sounded a little like Linkin Park and gave them album deals because they thought, oh, this is so big, it's going to be the next wave. And they didn't completely get a chokehold on grunge, and they were like, never again, you know?
Right.
These musicians are getting too uppity for us. We gotta get them early and lock them down like Barry Gordy, you know?
Right.
And so it created this wave of really bad new metal that because like Linkin Park was just a generational sound.
Mm-hmm.
It came out of the time that it was a mix of like if half of the band had their way, they never would have had the new metal sound, but it was like a mixture of like studio metaling and an actual genuine love for the sound they were going for that just you couldn't force that onto anything else.
Yes. Well, I mean, and it was a precursor for Transformers. Those movies don't.
Oh my God!
Linkin Park is
the end of. I love that trend of people just cutting a thing and doing what I've done.
So good, dude. So good.
Yeah. So
revisiting early music is just such a. God, we put on "Thanks for the Memories" at like Showdown last night, and you got all these white kids in their 20s that are. Dude, like part of it.
I like to put on. I'll do covers of songs like that. Like there's a Taylor Swift's, was it 1989, that album?
Yes.
Ryan Adams did a cover of every song on that album. He covered the entire album, and I would just put it on at shows and have people go, is that Taylor Swift?
That's fun. That's a fun gimmick.
Maybe appreciate her more. It makes you appreciate her writing when you hear like a more indie rock guy do it, and it's still amazing, and you're like, you got to give her some props for that. You got to give her some credit, or her band of people,
right? The team,
her brand.
Does she write her own songs or some of them?
She says she does. I mean, you can't. I don't know, man. Can you really trust these fucking rich people? I don't know.
I mean,
maybe not now, but like, dude, she's been writing music since she was like 13.
Yeah.
She was rich then too.
Yeah.
She was. She comes from like a very rich family.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And plant. Just saying. There's some
I
plant
love
evidence.
that we're coming up with slurs for rich people now, like Nepo baby. And it hurts them so much, and I love it. I'm like, oh, good. Cry about it. Your rich little tears. Probably have more nutrition in your tears than I have in my body, you rich fuck.
They should cry to.
Is this what this podcast is about?
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know what I'm supposed to be talking about. But.
Dude, we do whatever we want here. This is a free speech zone of chaos. It always has been. It's called intolerable because you're not supposed to be able to tolerate whatever might happen.
Good. Nah, yeah, I'm glad we can make rich people cry in our little inconsequential ways.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we gotta yell at how all the sides are doing the horrible things in front of our faces, and how we are, stuck arguing with each other, and they keep getting away with it because we get, oh, put them up. You got a wrong opinion than I do, and I don't like you. But it's like, no, y'all put down your fists and like everybody yell at the people up here because they're just stealing from you.
The good Nepo babies own it. They're like, yeah,
Thank you. The good Nepo babies.
Jack Quaid doesn't seem to be upset about it because he's like, oh, of course I would be a better actor. I've had all this time where all I can focus on is acting. He's just like, I can't help that. I'm going to take advantage. And that's all. Just own it. Just own it and be like, yeah, of course I would be better. Like, you guys have to go to work or raise your kid or whatever, and all I have to do is just sit around. And not only that, but Meg Ryan, my mom, is probably going to have a couple emails I can send, and just own it and be like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. It's not fair. Well, welcome to life. Life isn't fair. I give back where I can.
Those people are going to get more fans and more following and more money if they're their authentic selves, because that people respect that more, to come out and be like, yeah, guess what? Since I got to, just sit around or be bored or actually do something, I went ahead and, pick up the phone once or twice and got an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Rich people are able to pursue the arts better. I'm sorry. That's always been the truth. Who do you think were paying for those big paintings back in the day? It was rich people who were like, give me a picture of me.
They commissioned people's lives from them. Back in the day, they'd say, hey, you guy, you're so talented. don't do anything else but work for me for 20 years and do this thing.
Yeah, that's why they would hide bullshit in the art, because they'd be like, I'm going to draw a penis in this motherfucker. Like,
because they'd been there for a decade and they were pissed off.
It's like they have a shitty boss who's like, well, you can't keep me. I'm going to make this gay.
What if I make all the dicks small?
Yeah, I'm going to make them that. And they'll be like, oh, man, he comes from a world of tiny dicks. And I'll do a self-portrait. Mine will be huge. And they'll be like, he's the only one.
So you drop out, you're working at a call center.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
For how many years are you at the call center? Like,
from age 17 to like 24. It was like really my only real job. Like I had little jobs. Like I worked at a hotel overnight for like one summer. I did electrical work with my dad for a summer. But really, it was always call center work. And so I was just good at it, and it was easy, and it paid well because Augusta, where I was at, has a very low cost of living. It's one of the lowest costs of living in the United States. So much like when people take things to India because they can pay people less, you can pay people minimum wage, which is then and now is $7 and some change. It has not changed in that amount of time. It's the federal minimum. Always has been. And like waitresses only get paid like $2.50 because they're tipped. So when they were paying $15 an hour in 2005, so the call centers would compete with each other. So there was also a large workforce of people who had call center experience because of that. So when T-Mobile came into town, they were able to go, hey, we'll pay you $3 more an hour. We'll suck up all the best people from all the other call centers. And now we can pay people still relatively dirt wages.
Wow. So then it's a savings for all you. Yeah. It's a huge fruit fall.
And it was something called a high volume call center. So there's you have your regular call center, you have a high volume call center, which means you're expected to be call. It's calls over, beep, next call. So you could take 100 calls in a day sometimes, depending on what was going on.
Wow.
And
how your metrics are determined based on the just numbers?
It was call time was the number one thing, because again, the more calls you take, the less people are on hold, etc. And then they would do like, how long did you put them on hold? And then it was a lot of people listening to random calls from you and rating them. And it was courtesy, concern, timely resolution, and knowledge. I'll never forget. It's going to be put it on my fucking tombstone. I'll never forget it. But they would rank it like 1 through 5, which again, it's not the same. But it's much like a comedy competition where they'll take 4 completely arbitrary metrics,
subjective,
and then
metrics.
Somebody without any way to justifiably like rate something, you're just rating it on vibes.
There's no definition of the metrics either. Even if you had an arbitrary metric and you said, this is what this means.
Yeah, but what is courtesy to you and courtesy to me? Well, they did try to, like, so I would have my boss who would be rating me, and then their boss would look at their ratings and would tweak them, go, hey, I think you're being a little too hard on this. And then their bosses would, it was a system that, if you were going to rate it that way, was as fair as it could be.
Oh, that's good.
And the idea is like, maybe you get one that's bad. They would rate so many, though, that, how many times can you be fucked before it's probably your fault?
Right.
But all this went away when they were going to merge with Sprint, and then they were just horrible after that. Like, it was...
Do you remember that? That was the last... This has come up in my mind this week because antitrust laws finally... rearing its head again, where like they're like, we should break up these corporations that have too much power, like these oligarchs. Yeah. And that's the last one that they actually didn't allow to merge. T-Mobile and Sprint, back in the day, they were going to merge, and the government said, no, that's going to be a monopoly.
Well, and, they say they're like, it'll cost jobs, right? So when you're going to merge, what you do these redundancies, right? So you go like, okay, we'll fire we can't just fire people. We can't lay people off and treat them right. We can't go, hey, here's 3 months pay. Let's treat you right. What they did was what they call backdoor layoffs, which is they raised the expectations on the workers to such a level that people who were otherwise achievers, and they were a good company to work for. So you have some of these people, they were like single moms who had been working there 12 years, who'd given great time. They're not even getting paid that much, but they loved the job security. And if you worked there and you were good, they'd give you a good schedule, because it was like, you'd work from 7 a.m. till midnight. You'd have a schedule within there. These moms were getting schedules that were exactly what their kids, time at school were. And then suddenly everyone's not meeting expectations, meaning all the bonuses you'd expected for years went away. Now you're not sure what your schedule is going to be. And they would pull us into an office, and HR would go, God, your metrics, they're not good. Have you considered, it would be really bad. I see you've been working with us for 7 years. God, it'd be hard to have that as a hole in your resume if we were to fire you. Maybe you should go elsewhere. So instead of firing them, they would raise the expectations so high that people would quit. So they could go, hey, we have our numbers way down, but we didn't fire people. We're not letting people go. That would be bad for the merger. And That's when I eventually left, is I had worked my way up to a thing called a data analyst, which is where I was the one looking at all the data for the call center and like helping to, okay, we need to work on our hold. Our hold is higher than the nation's average, or these are the schedules we need to fill in all the blanks or whatever, right? Or if calls volume is way down, we'd offer people, who wants to go home? Does anybody want to go home, you know? And so I saw it all happening from the top down. And when they called me in the office, I was like, hey, you might want to get somebody else in here, because I'll be goddamned if you're going to get me out of this. Like, you're going to need to fire me properly so I can get my unemployment, and I will not be quitting. In fact, I find this all to be horrible. And they did it anyway. And the first like real shithead thing I ever did in my adult life is they didn't lock me out of the email. So I sent an email to the whole call center and blew up what was going on. Very proud of that.
Fuck yeah.
I was very proud.
Hell yeah.
I had a guy email me.
What was the email that you sent to everyone?
It was just like, hey guys, clearly this is going on. Do not accept less, you know, like they're trying to get rid of you. Make them fire you. If you leave on your own, you don't get unemployment, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is vile, you know. And I had a guy, when I was posting clips on Reddit, he messaged me one time. He goes, hey, I worked there. I kept that email and I use it in a presentation I give about cybersecurity now. He's like, because they absolutely should have locked you out, but they'd already run off that department from the call center.
God.
So
idiots.
so I just remember I was like at home and I was like, you know, I'd moved to Wichita, Kansas to work for this company. So I was there for a year and a half because it's how I promoted. You know, they have 20, 30 call centers all over the country. So to promote, sometimes you have to jump around. So I'd moved my entire life to Wichita, Kansas. I'd only been there a year and a half.
The Mecca, right?
I thought it would be cooler than it was. It'll sound like a joke, but I swear to God, I was like, well, the White Stripes brought it up that one time. It's probably pretty cool.
Fair enough.
Which is the amount of thought I put into it. But I was always there was the national places in Seattle. So the idea was I was going to move up there.
Gotcha.
And so that's what I wanted to do, stand up for forever. And so when they laid me off and I did all that and I was just pouting in my room, there was the Wichita Looney Bin was like 2 blocks down. And I kept saying, I'm going to go there and do it. And like the week I got fired, I went and did it for the first time.
How old were you?
Loved it. 24, 25, nice. Something like that. I was 26, excuse me. And so I did it and I loved it. That thing that so many people have, where I crushed my first time on stage and then didn't for a year, you know, because you get that like weird confidence in your first time. And then I went the next week and completely bombed. But I loved it. And I was like, I want to do this. And we had already been making plans to move to Seattle, me and my roommate at the time. We were going to move to Seattle because I was trending that way for work. And so we'd already been planning and saving money. So I was like, hey, what if we just went anyway? And so we moved to Seattle, and that's where I started comedy properly.
Nice. Hell yeah. So you got into the open mic scene there.
It was a really good time to be in the Seattle comedy scene.
Yeah.
Because all the...
So what year did you move there then?
What would it
be?
Roughly 11, 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So beginning of Barack, or no, second term Barack.
Yeah, I was in a primarily black call center when Barack Obama won, though, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, parties.
It wasn't even out of control. It's just so much happiness.
Awesome.
It was because Augusta is very split. It's 50-50 black white. It's one of the more balanced,
right? Like super. Like they really.
It did for a while, and then there were laws passed, and like there was a law. Don't quote me on this, but I believe there was a law that said that like certain members of government had to have a split that was equivalent to the population split. So you couldn't just have 10 white people running a city that was black and white, you know?
Got it.
That's where James Brown came from. It's got a long history of for people of color. And but it was one of those things where like the call center, because it was a way you could work your way up without having a necessarily a degree and stuff. It was people that came from poor families that worked there. So it was like, I would say like 70% people of color in that call center.
So it was a hilarious call center then.
It was pretty fun.
so the people were awesome.
I remember one of the funniest things somebody ever said to me after that call center is I was a supervisor there. And I said something about going on a date with a girl. And this guy goes, and I think he was gay. He just goes, "You like girls?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "I thought you were gay." And I go, "Shouldn't I be dressed nicer?" He goes, "I thought you were one of them sloppy gays." And that's stuck in my memory
So
as a inside out core memory in my brain. I thought you were one of them sloppy gays.
Sloppy gays.
Oh, like, oh shit. Oh, thanks.
I'll
Oh.
clean my act up, right? Take that as a backhand.
I was much heavier back then too. I weighed almost 300 pounds.
Okay.
So
How tall are you?
I was pretty sloppy. I'm 5'10".
Okay.
And I wear it horribly. I wore it horribly.
Well, see, I was big. I'm been on the cut myself. I was up to 340 at one point. So
Yeah. At least how tall are you?
I carried it much better though. Like didn't look 340.
Yeah, I looked like I got stung by a bunch of bees. I didn't wear it well. I just looked like I was having an allergic reaction to life.
Oh man.
I always hated big guy. Somebody big guy. I'm like, just call me fat, you piece of shit. I'm not tall enough to be a big. You're just saying, hey, he's fat. I hated big guy.
Oh my goodness. So when did you start dropping the weight then in Seattle?
When I was doing comedy, which was a mind fuck. So I was in Seattle for a few years, and I did a.
So did you start out being the funny fat guy?
No, because I never really self-identify. I knew I was chubby, but I hated it.
Got it.
And so I was never like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Like I was fat all over, so I didn't even have the like look of it. I just was heavy.
Gotcha.
And I just looked unhealthy. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it. There are people that were the exact same height and weight of me that can wear it well. And I also had a chin strap beard. Talk about new metal. I had a chin strap beard because I didn't know I could grow a mustache. And somebody finally bullied me. They're like, just give it 5 days, Billy. I was like, you'll see. It'll be horrible. And day 4, I was like, son of a bitch. I can grow it.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean when you say I didn't identify with that part of as me. And so I totally see what you
my
mean.
dysmorphia went both ways. Like I both thought I was hideous, but then sometimes I was like, oh, maybe you're not so big. But I did a taping for Steve Hofstetter. There's a name drop. I did a taping for Steve Hofstetter at a place called Tacoma Comedy Club in Tacoma, Washington.
Nice.
And it was the moment I realized they did 3 cameras. And one of the deals was, because love him or hate him, I know he's a divisive figure. He was very comedian focused. Like I haven't hung out with him. I have no idea what he's doing these days. But at the time, he's like, "Hey, we'll tape this. We're going to try to sell it. Also, we're going to give you every angle. You can do with it what you will." He was a pioneer of putting stuff out on the internet. So I got the angles back, and I was like, "My man, you are fat at every angle. There's not a good angle for you." And I was like, "I'm going to drop the weight." Like immediately, I was looking into keto, and immediately like went to do it.
Yeah. Right away.
It worked. It worked crazy good. I lost most of my weight within a 6 to 8 month period. People thought I was sick, which I'm like, good.
Technically, you kind of are because you're getting yourself out of a sickness, which is, the period you're living.
I was sick as fuck.
Yeah. I mean, hey, dude, the keto diet's worked for me throughout my life. I just need to be better about my diet and I could keep it. I've just always been
But I was doing stand up while I lost the weight. And it was
that's so
a mind fuck.
How the fuck do you pull that off, man?
Well, what was crazy was people started to find me funnier and I had not changed anything about my act. And it really made me realize how much the average person just does not like fat people. Well, I'll stand by that till the day I die. I did not change. My self-esteem did not catch up to my weight for a while. So it wasn't like I was different. I just looked nicer on stage and people were like, we respect his opinions more.
You know what's funny is I've been kind of like come to these 4 tenets of like you have to have like some or a bit of all of these things to like be a big Netflix level, very small percentile of what the comic basis is, but like attractive, like decently smart and well spoken, like intelligent to some
I'm
degree.
going to argue with that second one, but we can go on though.
I think
I don't think Sebastian Maniscalco is all that smart, but I think
then he's, as much as he lacks in the smartness, he makes up for it in how he's well spoken.
I'll give you that.
I guess that's why they're coupled.
He's a good performer.
Yeah. Maybe there's some.
I've just met some dumb famous people where I'm like, oh, you just came in at the right time and had the right people behind you.
Okay, maybe not. Okay,
I believe there are smart people behind them. I'll give you that. So you might say, like, who is Sebastian Maniscalco? He's not himself anymore. He's his agent. He's his manager. He's his whole brand. And I don't even want to shit on him. I give him as a good example of stand-up in a lot of ways. But I think that there are smart people managing his career choices, but he himself, I don't think he would even identify himself as a wildly smart person.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to disagree.
No. I actually really enjoy the challenging, so please continue to do it throughout. Yeah. That's like the only thing that I really like get out of like life. I enjoy,
I'm the same way. Yeah.
The fuck, how do we grow if not to be challenged?
I wish everybody felt that way.
I mean, I went to public school in Boulder, Colorado, and so I think that coupled with being in a relatively conservative home life, I would like come home from school.
You're gonna have to explain your hyper-specific regional bigotries to me. I don't know what Boulder means.
So
I'm new here.
so kind of like Seattle, like generally very like liberal place.
Yeah,
Boulder,
okay.
Colorado. So the public school is like very liberal.
Okay,
most of the teachers are all liberal.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like learning as a young person, like what the world means or whatnot, what history is and whatnot. And then I go home and I tell my parents like, hey, the shit you've been telling me is wrong. I learned the truth at school today, right? Because they're like relatively conservative and some of the stuff's different than what I'd learned. And then they'd be like, well, let's talk more. And then I'd come back to school the next day and I'd be like, wow, you guys are kind of wrong.
You'd be like, the world's only 8,000 years old, so how could that be true?
Right. So this like tearing down of what a truth or, you know, the sides or political spectrum of ideals and knowledge and whatnot and civil discourse from a young age was something that was kind of thrust into me. And I think it's made me, you know, more interested in life and engaging with people. So
I used to think I was a centrist until the world went crazy. And now I'm like, no, I'm a liberal. I'm a hardcore, dumb liberal. And but like I remember I miss being able to be like, there's things on both sides. You know, now I'm like, no. No, I don't know.
I'm going to take a brief pause here because I got to flip these chicken wings for us. So we're just going to take I'm going to kick us to this brief pause with our signature station identification. Have you heard radio before in your life, Billy?
Oh yeah.
You're listening to 91.1. Oh shit, was that another plane? We'll be right back. We're back. We're live. That's still going perfect. The wings are flipped and they're closer along.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Dude, they're smelling good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I got to throw something on this Adderall fire because I haven't eaten anything today.
Another Southerner in the studio. I'm always nervous for Southern guests. I want to prove that the wings are quality enough that you should come back.
If it makes you feel any better, I have zero expectation of you. So,
well, Billy, you should have more. If only you knew.
I can't wait to be surprised.
I appreciate that. We were talking, you guys, my producer, and you were talking a little bit while I was flipping wings about the Gateway show that you run and getting clips and filming it and putting it out and producing it and the challenges of, you know, trying to bring in, you know, someone like him that's running cameras and trying to help out.
Yeah. I was just talking about how it's been a thing I've been trying to do. So I produced a show called The Gateway Show, which, as we said earlier, is a show where we have stand-up comics tell jokes sober, then we get them high and they tell more jokes. And I produce a lot of other things too. And I really enjoy the act of like not for lack of a better word, the production aspect. Like, let me get the comics, let me find the venue, I do the advertisements all myself. I'll go cities and I'll teach people how to do Facebook advertisements for shows. I have a passion in it. And a part of it is what we talked about earlier, which is I have a GED. I didn't come from a lot of money. And if we don't share this knowledge with each other, then rich people will buy it. And they will inherently be above us if we can't band together. Not to be too much of a socialist about it, but
it's a meaningful thing to share meaningful knowledge with people that are worth the shit with that knowledge.
Well, I've had people go, oh, you should charge. I go, I don't want to. If somebody wants to tip me afterwards, sure, I'll accept your tip. But like the whole point is that we should share this knowledge with each other because that makes all stand-up better. All stand-up being better makes more people come out to stand-up. And I do believe this, not blowing smoke. I moved to Denver because of that mentality. Denver has one of the best comedy scenes in the nation because the audiences expect amateur comedy to be good. And a lot of scenes would go, what is amateur comedy? I was in Phoenix for years because that was where my ex lived.
Excuse you. I'm sorry, producer's ripping.
That was the ghost of Phoenix coming back to us. It was he's trying to get away from me.
Don't talk about me.
The mere mention of Phoenix, he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. But I was there, and it's the 5th largest population center in the United States, and it has no comedy scene.
None, right?
None to speak of.
And it's had some talented people that just have to fly the coop immediately, right?
Immediately, sure. Who claims Phoenix?
I mean, there's a few people. I don't know.
I can tell you too. Michael Longfellow, who's on SNL, and then Chappelle Lacey. Chappelle Lacey was from Phoenix, but he only talks about it because he talks about being the black guy in an area of all white people. But nobody's like people that came from Seattle during my time period. It was during the Bridgetown Comedy Fest years where Portland was huge. The amateur comedy scene. It wasn't New York, it wasn't LA, but you take a D-level scene, it became a B-level scene. People were becoming famous. I could list you 6 hyper famous people that came from that time period, and there was a lot of pride. And that happens all over the country. There's people at one level or another that take a lot of pride. Like Chicago's another city like that. Boston's another city like that.
Billy, let me just say before you talk about, I want to say I'm honored to have you in the Denver scene because I feel personally, as someone that's loved comedy for the short 27 years I've been on this earth, and the amount of time I've been able to hyper consume with my broken brain, whether I ever become part of comedy or not, maybe I become comedy's Narnward someday. I'm an old man, fucking having to know.
I only get that reference. If you'd said that a week ago, I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. So that's a very new reference for me, only because of Tyler the Creator's interview.
It's but a topical joke.
Anyway, but yeah, as you're saying, if not,
the point, like Denver, I believe there is a vat of talent in this city right now that you could, if the right resources or whatever plucks along in the right way, there's people waiting to blow up in this city, so many of them.
I'm not a sports guy, so I'm gonna say things wrong,
but futures bet on Denver. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I was gonna say, it's like you look at somebody who is on the training team of football teams could demolish a local, like a practice, a practice team.
No, yeah, exactly.
I broke up with my fiance and went home and watched a lot of football this quarter 4 of 2024. So I'm like, the guys with the football gear. But no, like the practice squad, like that guy is still probably in his high school one of the best players ever.
Yep.
But yet we wouldn't know his name because the expectation is so high. That's how I feel about Denver. I think the highs are so high. You have people you're not even booking in this scene that are still very funny, but just but it makes them get funnier because the competition is so high. And I go all over this country with my show. I produce a show. I joke around and say, anywhere cool enough to have us, right? But I headline all the places that, it's like my headlining set and my gateway show, it's almost kind of the polar opposite groups, because I did DryBar and that was a lot of like clean comedy. So I've gone all over the country, all these scenes. I love getting up to like, hey, take me to the open mic. Let me see what the scene's about, right? Denver's the best one. By a lot. And everybody wants to like go, oh, they're humble, but I don't know. I mean, like, there's Chicago. I'm telling you, it's not just the comics. It's not just the venues. You guys have like 3 or 4.
It's giving height.
Sorry, just got to bring in the board a little bit. A little some sound drop action for you.
What was that?
It's Alec. This is Alec Flynn.
It's giving height.
Oh, for a moment, I was like, what the fuck was that? I didn't notice at all.
That's kind of sick.
And I was like, has he had a mic this entire time? I was like, why would he choose that to be the moment?
He pantomimes himself.
Pantomimes himself. Why would that be the moment he'd start using the mic? But no, it's not just I think that, it also helps that I'm fairly liberal, but like in a real world, so I call it blue collar liberal. Like I'm not a elitist. Like I understand there's like, when people talk about needing guns, I understand that there's real world needs. I think, in my opinion, is in this country, a lot of us are a lot closer to opinions than we would like to believe, But I do believe that I listen to the comics in Denver. Not a lot of them are shitheads. There are whole scenes with only shitheads. Whole communities of people where it's just shitheads encouraging shitheads to be shitheads. But it's also like Seattle, I felt there was a lot of people out of touch with the rest of the country, where I was like, yeah, I guess that gets a laugh here, but you wouldn't get a laugh even 45 minutes south of Seattle with that. Denver, I feel like a lot of the better people do go and like work other communities, and a lot of the leaders are both not shitheads and also capable of talking to other parts of the country. There are whole communities that don't have the Comedy Lounge, Comedy Underground, even Comic Sense up in Boulder, your favorite place. In Boulder, they I know Boulder. that place has.
I do. Boulder's beautiful. I just stared at the Quaker Factory for 4 years after growing up staring at the Flatiron playing youth football, bro. Fucking James and Beerwitz took a quarterback's lunch as he took the ball to hand it to the running back, took it 90 yards the other way, and I looked off to the Flatirons to my left. And then I fucking looked to the Quaker Factory. Okay, I love Boulder. Boulder's amazing.
And that's basketball.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Rugby.
But yeah, like you have Comic Sense up in. You had Boulder Comedy Show, rest in peace. You had Comic Sense. These are established.
There's going to be more. There's room for even more, I think.
But there are whole scenes that don't have one of those. One of them. And then you take. Comedy Works, which I know everybody's got opinions on Comedy Works, but they have an established hierarchy and pecking order, which I know people hate. But if you didn't have that, you would beg for it. Beg for somebody to say you're good enough. Like external validation is so rare in comedy. It's what we all want. A laugh is an external validation.
The last, the way I look at it is like, I don't know, as someone just outside of it. When I was in college, I was a door guy at Penguins. Have you ever played Penguins?
No.
Okay, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, small basement club. Great club, small room type of thing. Good vibes. But I used to joke when I was a door guy at Penguins that, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to make it back to Denver so I can be a door guy at Comedy Works. Because at that point, like I don't know if you're a fan of the show, long time fan of the show, but my mom and my sister are the two smartest women I know, and I really respect them and respect women. And smart women are inspiring.
As long as they're smart. I agree with you. No, I'm just kidding.
Tell me about it. But because of that, the two like most intelligent, meaningful, powerful people in comedy that were women were Mitzi Shore and Wendy.
Sure.
The owner of Comedy Works.
Yeah.
And Mitzi's now passed. And so Wendy, I think, is like the longest standing, like most like prominent, influential, like part of an important facet of comedy in the United States. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, I think that there are, to speak plainly, I think that there are legitimate complaints about every single comedy club and comedy venue in the nation. There's no way in a competition-rich environment to not piss off a certain amount. And that's where the alt scene came from back in the day, in the like late 90s, early 2000s, is a bunch of people who the clubs were ignoring, and they created their own thing. And I think that's beautiful. Like, yeah, if you're like, I'm not a Comedy Works comic, okay, that's okay. Go create your own thing. Go do your own thing. Get so good they call you back and you skip all the levels. It happens all over the country.
Bingo.
But the fact that Comedy Works gives people a chance to the yearly competition, the fact that you can work your way up, and there's a clear I don't know all the terms, but I've seen the little sheet. You're like, I'm a host, I'm a guest spot, like all the terms, like a pre-pro and all that stuff they say. All that stuff, while it feels gatekeepy, it's actually a thing that can lift you up, a thing to overcome. Because this like comedy in general, the comedy community, the comedy business, it's all proving yourself to people. And if you can't do it in your home city, you're going to hate it everywhere else. Yeah. What are you going to do? I used to say this, it dates me. I go, what are you going to do when you do Conan and they don't have you back a second time? What are you going to do when you do a short set on Comedy Central, but they don't have you do the Comedy Central Presents? What are you going to do when you have Comedy Central Presents, they don't bring you back for the hour? Nobody's even going to tell you why. At least here, you have people like Janae who are giving feedback. And the fact that people get rude to her about that, I'm like, they have no idea what it's like to be in a place where you don't get that anymore.
How hard must it be to give that feedback?
Horrible. You have to be dispassionate about it, because if you're, you have to almost give it dispassionately, because it's going to hurt to be like, oh, you're not ready. Nobody wants to hear that, especially in comedy where you have to have a certain amount of ego to even start doing it. You already have to go, I have things to say people want to hear. Plenty of people would never be able to do that.
Now you see why, Chris, I've been trying to run the long game. I try to do as little as I can long game, because I'm trying to kill that ego. It's bad. Gotta push that aside.
It sucks because you need it a little bit.
Nobody
though.
gives a fuck about what I have to say, but I need to kind of also go up with a little bit of that in my mind, and also like think that they should care. Well, because if I don't speak with my chest at all, then they're not going to give a shit about what I say.
I'm going to give you some advice, young blood. If you can't have self-esteem, have disdain for your peers.
Oh,
that's what I say.
I wish I could have it.
I wish that was less of a real piece of advice, but it is. If sometimes you go, I'm not shit, but these people aren't even not shit.
See, but my other thing is like maybe I'm broken, because I go, if I'm going to an open mic, I want to laugh at your joke.
I agree.
Like, I don't want to I want to sit here and not listen to you and not laugh at your joke. Like, I'm trying to laugh at your joke.
I want to hear something worthy of laughing at. That's a very different point of view.
See, and so I can't get into that camp yet. But soon, when I'm older and wiser, I'm sure I'll hop the fence and be like, hey, pick it up.
Well, let's explore that a bit. And doesn't it devalue comedy to not hold it to a certain standard? Like, I would go, because I also believe anyone can get better. I don't ever believe somebody is incapable of. I would never discourage somebody from chasing their dream.
Counterpoint. There's not enough human joy and expression of human joy in the world, and to have laughter and more pure expression of human joy in the world is just net sum always a good thing.
Sure, I would never discourage you
for it to be. Well, that's what I'm saying. So for that's my whole thing. Is like, if I'm in the context, I'm trying to listen, trying to laugh, hopefully.
Well, that's always I've had exes and stuff that say like they hate talking with comics because if we really think something's funny, I'll go, oh, that's really funny.
And that's another thing is if I really, really, really think something's funny, I'm not going to laugh. I'm going to be like, holy fuck, God damn it,
that's so good.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And it's so it's broken because sometimes, and it's weird because how could the fuck, you could ask me, you could put me on a lie detector with a gun to my head and be like, which one's funnier than the other? Like over and over and over, try to make me rank this stuff and my reactions. I couldn't tell you. Because it's like,
yeah, fair enough.
It's that moment, right?
I saw a guy up at the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins who was funny and didn't know. I went on stage, so I closed out that show, and I went, I said, is he still here? And I go, man, if you were doing a character, it would be the funniest thing I've ever seen. But what's better is this is just genuinely who you are. And I meant it. He came up to me afterwards and I checked. I was like, I wasn't bullying you or anything. I just think like you should harness how fucking weird you are, dude, because you're a weirdo. And you're a character, you know?
Bro. I wish I could be,
I'm very supportive.
That's like that. At South, he's a door guy.
Yeah.
He's just like this guy. He's been on the podcast. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Weird fucker.
Well,
and I'm like, dude, harness that. Be weird on stage.
Yeah, own it, dude.
That's how you're going to get
your
some
point
laughs.
of view.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I love supporting amateur comedians. I do it, but I do think that you, in a way, like a toddler, you have to train the ego out of them and then have them earn it back. Because they already, like, the worst thing for an early stand-up comic, in my opinion, is for them to get everything a scene has to offer within the first 2 years, because they don't learn how to get better. And I've seen it all over the country. I saw it in Seattle a lot, where if you were naturally kind of funny, everybody's like, he's the next big thing. And I was like, he'll burn out. He'll burn out in 2 years, because he never had to have the joy of not getting a laugh and then turning something into getting a laugh. Like that's the opiate that keeps me going, is let me write something new, figure it out. Let me figure it all out. Right. And so if something not funny, I'll sit back and not laugh. But I'll also, if somebody came up to me like, what do you think? I'd give them, I've listened, I'll give them detailed feedback. I love comedy and love supporting people, but some people need to be told they're not funny yet.
Oh, for sure.
And I think having hey,
let me be honest, Billy, I'd be honored if you watched me do a set and you were like, you're not funny at all.
I would say
Sean. I'd be honored, Billy.
Not funny yet, or whatever, right?
I'd be honored.
But you're very tall, though, so.
Man, he's tall.
That's half the work, dude. But
dude, I'm going to kill myself.
But I think having a club that goes, we're passing on you now. The best thing that ever happened to me in my early comedy career is I was in Seattle. Tacoma Comedy Club was the big A club that was within like a 45-minute range. And I was doing pretty good for an amateur comic. I'd had some success. And then I went to audition for the hosting spot there, and I did not get it. And the guy said, he goes, well, it wasn't that you weren't good. This other guy had been knocking on the door longer, and you weren't so good that I could afford to pass him over. Is what he said. He goes, it wasn't that you weren't good. It's just the other guy was as good as you and has been trying longer. And I said, well, can I try again? He goes, yeah, in 6 months you can try again. I got it. And I was better by that point, to the point where I only hosted twice before they bumped me up to feature. And it was a point of pride for me. And a lot of times that's the feeling where you go, yeah, but if you takes longer to prove, you'll just be funnier by the time you prove it. And anyway.
You haven't seen me grace the new talent night set yet. All my other door staff at South have been giving me shit. They're like, go do your new set. Go do your new talent set. I'm just not in a rush, dude.
Yeah, since I've been here, I haven't even gone to New Talent Night. I applied for New Faces, and they were like, "You've literally never been here for New Talent Night. We cannot." And I told a friend, I go, "It makes sense for the exact same reason. Like, they can't deny a spot to somebody who's been trying for maybe years,
right? And
then give it to a guy who moved a week before they announced the. So I get it,
They should give him. They should bump him on. If you wanted my honest opinion,
I've won thick skin a few times there and stuff.
I'm not someone to anyone give a fuck about their opinion, but if you wanted my 2 cents, and I'll just be honest about it, I think they should they could add a spot for you.
I was thinking about just asking if anybody drops out.
For 13 years, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah,
but also I'm going to be here for a while. I'm not planning on leaving Denver, and if it makes sense to try it again next year, I'm not, my feelings aren't hurt about it. I get it from a production standpoint.
Like a timing standpoint.
Yeah. Because again, it's okay. We could put Billy on. Let's say I do really well. So I moved here a week before they announce it, and then I win. People aren't
win it next year, bro.
People aren't going to be excited for my success at that point.
Wait a year. We'll be way more hyped for you.
Or I'll bomb out. I did in Seattle. They had a thing called Seattle International Comedy Competition, which is
that's a big one, right?
It was.
Okay.
I don't know where it is now. I don't want to dismiss it, but I know that even by the time I was doing it, it had kind of lost its glow a little bit. But it's 3 weeks of comedy competition. So straight back to back. So it's 4 weeks. You do week 1 is prelim 1. Week 2 is prelim 2. They typically have 20 people in each of those. And you're doing 5 minutes each. And then if you're the top 5 of each week goes on to the semifinals, top 5 of that week goes on to the finals. So I'd see great comics get kicked out in that prelim because it's hard to stand out in 5 minutes for some people. I saw people who barely got through and then were first place in the next week because they had more time. So that's the thing about comedy competitions is it's all I pay more attention to who's doing well, semis and finals, those early things. If you get kicked out, I'm like, yeah, you might just not had a good night,
Yeah. God, I always think how the fuck do you even judge one of those things?
It's
And
hard.
it's weird. It's one of those, like you described, where you're going to lose some people early just by the nature of the beast.
Have you ever seen Preacher Lawson before?
Oh yeah, he's been on South. He's amazing.
He's amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing. Incredible. Beat the shit out of me in a comedy competition.
Really?
To the point where it was kind of beautiful because we had, I was first in my week. So in Seattle, you have, they would always book a lot of locals too because it's Seattle International Comedy Competition. So week one, if you make it through, you have a week off and then you do the semifinals. So week one, it would be mostly locals because the people from out of town don't want to come, waste a week, and then continue on. So I was in the local week. So I won mine. And then by the time I made it in the semifinals, it was much more competitive. And so I made it to the finals with Preacher as me, Preacher, a guy named Mace Galone, a guy named Pat Bircher, and Ricardo Flanagan, who sadly passed away due to COVID. Great crew of people. Everybody was different. Ricardo was kind of more of a Patrice guy. Mace was kind of like a Dimitri Martin type. Pat Bircher did the darkest competition set I've ever seen in my life. A lot about his dad and like suicide and shit. But he felt comfortable doing that because Preacher was such a phenomenal talent. There was no way we were going to beat him. Nobody was even trying in the finals because
Preacher's so good.
he's a generational.
He's
I think
so
he's
good.
phenomenal, and also has no business being such a nice guy.
He is the. Can I take it aside here? We have so many people come through, and I get to the pleasure of selling merch and interacting and taking pictures with a lot of them, and seeing the way they interact with their crowd, their fans, their base, the people that make it so they get to live their dream. He is, bar none, down to earth, kind, like nothing I've ever seen.
It would be so easy for him to be a prick. It would be. He's good looking.
This man is Adonis.
Yeah, he's in shit. We would be in the back room during the competition. He'd be playing piano. I'm like, what aren't you fucking good at, Preacher? He'd be deadlifting his hot British girlfriend in the back and shit. I'm like, why do you need this? I know why I need this. Why do you need this? How much did your dad hit you to get you? Because if he hit you too much, he'd fuck you up. So he hit you the exact right amount.
It's like the Wii when you're playing Wii golf and you got to get it right to get the max, but you don't want to go over and kind of
Well, the worst part is he has a brother named Justin Lawson who's also a phenomenal comic, but he's not Preacher. And to be the second funniest person in that family and still be so funny,
Eli Manning,
he's so funny. And it's but yeah, so I remember it was in Seattle and it was the semifinals.
Okay.
And he's very physical, very funny guy, very physical though. And he gets off stage and we were upstairs. It's a Comedy Underground. You go downstairs and you're upstairs in Pioneer Square in Seattle. And it was October and it was cold. And he had done such a physical act when he got out, his head was steaming. And I was like, fuck off, Preacher. How the fuck are we supposed to compete with that?
Yeah, you're steaming, bro.
You're steaming.
This guy's steaming.
So I beat him one time. I beat him one night.
time?
One night it was the final night of semis. This is I'm sure he would hate how much I brag about this, but because he never got beat. He was first every time. Final night of semis. I'm technically in sixth place. And the way Seattle International Comedy Competition works is you get 5 nights of shows. They drop your low score, and then it's the combined total, right? So there are plenty of ways I could have made it into the top 5, but it would have required someone else not doing well. The only way I could do it without anybody else's set mattering is if I got first place. Okay, so I asked a guy named Gabriel Rutledge. Ever worked with Gabe? Gabe's another phenomenal comic.
Has Gabe been? No, he's coming up. He's going to come to
see
South
him.
Soon. Yeah, no, he'll be producing his shows when he's here.
He taught me everything about being a comic. Him and Laurie Kilmartin, I give a lot of credit for like teaching me what it meant to be a headliner.
Wow.
He's fun. I'll tell you a story about him too. It's one of my favorite stories. But
stick around for the eating segment on the Patreon for that one.
Yeah. And but I asked him, he'd won the competition before. I said, hey, I have to go up first in this group of 10. I have to get first. Like, do you have any advice for me?
First out of 10?
First out of 10. And because they would also do it where if you went first, they'd never make you go first again in the week.
Okay.
So they would, it was random, but you wouldn't get fucked by it. So I'm first.
And you have to get first overall.
I have to get first to guarantee that I move on. Again, there are other ways I could have moved on, but that was the only way to guarantee it. And he just gave me a simple, he just goes, there's no amount of energy you can put on that stage that'll be too much. So go up there and just be nuts. And I went up there and I had what I felt was a very good set. I left because I didn't want to watch everybody and be rooting against them. Like, honestly, I watched the competition. We go, may the best man win, may the best woman win, may the person win. But like, I don't want to be like, damn it, they're doing good, And because I needed it, I just walked away. I was like, I'll come back. I told my friend, like, text me when the final person's done and the stall set is up where they judge, they score everything. And so I didn't know how anybody else did. And they were calling everybody, and I wasn't up there yet. And I'd kind of just assumed I didn't make the top 5. And they called, and it took me a second to be like, oh, I made first, right? And it felt great, man. I moved on. Felt really, because right after that was the final night. So then they announced who made it in the top 5, so we got to go back up, right? I go back to check the score. Preacher goes, can I see that score? And I'm like, Preacher, let me fucking have this. Can you not? Well, I want to see the score. Preacher, fuck off. And he was laughing about that too. I was like, let me have this win, Preacher. But that's his mentality. Is he was like, but why didn't I get first place tonight?
Yeah, he's killer.
And to circle back around, that's why I think it's good to be like, to self-judge that way. Like, he didn't think he sucked, but he was like, I need to know what I did differently tonight, because every single set is a competition, whether or not you get a score back from it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to watch back and listen to my sets I've been doing recently, and because I got an upcoming show spot that I'm on and I want to do really well.
How long have you done stand-up, by the way?
I did my first set when I was a door guy in college, and then I had really bad back pain when I moved back from college, and like couldn't do stand-up, couldn't stand up, sit around for hours, and couldn't stand up for those 5 minutes with like.
Well, how long have you been doing it? Like, how long would you consider?
I call myself like a year, 2 year comic.
You're a baby.
I'm a baby.
You're a baby. They had that phrase, first year material. Have you ever heard that phrase?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where that no matter how good your material is in that first year, you'll throw most of it away.
Mm-hmm.
It's first year material, so because you'll be that much funnier. People think of it as like, oh, my material sucks. I'm like, no, just no matter how funny you are, you'll be funnier
for sure.
So you'll throw away most of that first year material.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, one thing that was like big for me is just like continuously pushing one thing I've fallen off recently is like keeping myself accountable to continuously writing. Sure. And that was what I found myself making the biggest leaps from, is just like getting at the fucking writing.
Let me ask you something I like to ask a lot of people. It's my favorite like stand-up comedy question, because there's no right answer. It just gets to the heart of what people like about stand-up. If you had to give it a percentage, what percentage compare writing to performance do you think stand-up comedy is?
It depends on who you are.
No, just you. How do you feel? Like, if you were defining stand-up comedy, there's no wrong answer. So what's your instinct with that percentage-wise writing to performance?
My honest answer would be it depends on who the person is. Because like some performers, it's more performing, and some performers, it's more writing. But for me,
you,
I don't think we know yet.
Your definition of it in your mind.
Ideally, let me think here. Maybe 50-50. Yeah, probably 50-50.
Yeah. See, I think I've had people go 80 writing, 20 performance. I have people go 90 performance, 10 writing. For me, I think it's 30% writing, 70% performance.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason why is I think that, and this is where I typically mention Sebastian Maniscalco. I don't think a lot of people think of him as some phenomenal writer, but he's a phenomenal performer. And I think that people are more willing to sit around and watch good performance with okay writing than they are to watch great writing with poor performance.
That's definitely true.
Yeah. And so I think that a lot of people, comics, focus a lot on the writing because we hold each other accountable. We're like, I want so-and-so to respect my joke. I want to have that cool, great joke.
Oh, no. I'm focused on it because I'm broken, I think. Because like I have
not necessarily you, but just in general.
No. Yeah, but to go back to me, but like that's why I'm focused on it, because like I don't believe the whole everything's discovered. Like there's like the new little side rocks for me as someone that works sound. Hundreds and hundreds of shows, like lots of shows now under my belt of like really, really, really good stuff. And like the stuff that really makes me laugh harder than anything else is the weird, in the moment pocket stuff that isn't to be found, and it has this confluence of like years of work and everything else, and you get to see it. It's magic.
Well, a lot of comics like to pretend like they discovered the B chord. Do you know what I mean by that? Like they're like, oh, I wrote this, and you go like, well, everybody's discovered the B chord. What makes it music is combining it with the different chord, and then what's the tempo, and then what's.
I love a good extended metaphor. He's gonna get me chubbed up here, Billy.
But I think that's true though, right? Because you might go, oh, I've got a really good. I can play the B chord. I don't know if I can crush it, but you go.
You might like this one. Yeah. My analogy for stand up as an art form that I've stumbled to talking to people about this and like whatever thinking about is like, it is the only art form where the instrument you're playing doesn't reveal itself until you get to a mastery level of playing that instrument. And then you're like, oh, it's an oboe. And when I play it like an oboe, this shit fucking rips. Every time when I play it like an oboe, this shit is awesome. And they love it, man.
Years of doing this, I think only in the last year have I felt like I've found my voice. And I'm sure maybe 5 years from now I'll feel different. But like in the last year, I feel like the thoughts I have and the way that I say them on stage are one and the same. Like, and there's years of struggling. I was not very good in my first few years. I was there was a big scene of people who were very bright, good writers, interesting, unique people who, I wouldn't consider myself the top 10 comic out of my graduating class, not even my scene, just of the people who started around me. But what that did was I would see them go up in an open mic. I would fail. They'd do well. And I'd go, well, clearly it's me. And I would go back and try to figure out my oboe, so.
Yeah, I'm far off from knowing what that fucking instrument is, but
I didn't feel like I knew my voice when I recorded my comedy special for DryBar.
Whoa.
So I was far enough in my career that I look back on this and I cringe. I cringed a year after it came out because I'm just like, it's one thing I got laughs, it was fine. There were a couple of clips that did well, but it just felt like every few months I felt like I was getting better. So I'd look back and be like, I wouldn't have done it that way now.
Yeah, but isn't that like shouldn't that be more of like, instead of beating yourself down for that, isn't that a celebration? Like, isn't that a victory of like, this is progression? The fact that I feel upset by that,
sure.
It would be different now.
But you're seeking better. So it's almost it's frustration, not like anger or sadness. It's like, God, I wish I knew it then. I
don't know. I guess isn't the Zen perspective of the same thing like joy for the unlimited process of growth? Instead of just a frustration with the
but not just a frustration. I will say that I was proud of my comedy special. But when I look back on it as far as like progressing, I'm like, oh God, why would I have thought that? Like,
oh, see, I think you should look back on it and laugh and be like, that's funny that I was not as good as I am now back then.
Well, imagine somebody comes to you and goes, I got a 5-camera 4K shoot for you. I'm going to use red cameras.
Hang on, time out. I have to fucking edit my own show that I've made 169 episodes or 170 something for fucking nobody, bro. Yeah, I get the whole looking back on growth. Like, I understand exactly what you're saying. Maybe not to the public eye degree of this, but like, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, I think it, as someone that strives for perfection, because I can see it in your eyes, like, dude, you're going to be even better. And it's a game to know where it's Sisyphusian of you.
Sure, but I guess one thing is like that you get your chance, right? And they put it out there. And then the knowledge, you're like, I'm not going to have a special quality this good for 4 more years. 5. I knew it when I was like, this looks so good.
I see.
I can't recreate this on my own.
I see. Okay.
And I'm not going to have access to this quality level for a long time.
Now I understand. So the quality level of the opportunity, I see. Okay.
The frustration to go like, God, I wish if I knew then what I know, they would be even better. And like I said, here I am years later, and I've recorded some cool things. I've had some cool things happen. I've done some cool stuff myself. It doesn't look as good as that fucking special does. And that's that moment in time. And I take pride in, I was one of, if not the youngest DryBar comic at the time that I recorded it.
Wow.
There was a lot of older people.
How old were you?
This would have been like 6 years ago.
Wow.
So
you're like
early 30s. Yeah.
Wow.
And my buddy Aaron Woodall, who's phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to see him, he tours around, both as himself and he does this thing called Mormon and the Meth Head, him and Jessa Reed.
Nice.
And,
if he ever comes to Denver, let me tell him I'll cook him wings.
He'll be here in June. I'll connect y'all.
That'd be great.
Phenomenal. Former Mormon, was married to his Mormon high school sweetheart.
That'd be so fun.
And then his best, he got left by her. What? And he released an album like 6 months later that is all about his divorce and like leaving Mormonism. It's called Woodall Alone, because his name's Aaron Woodall. Woodall Alone. And
I would love to talk to him. We grew up with a bunch of Mormon buddies in our high school that were.
But he's phenomenal. But he was he was very young too, and I saw him, and you'll know this as you continue on your comedy career. You'll see this is there's moments where you want to be like, well, they got it. That means I could do it. And to do that without being a shithead, you know what I mean? Like, I think that phrase, why the fuck did they get something and I didn't, is actually a great question to ask yourself if you're actually asking it and not being a hater, you know? So I'd see him go, and I go, well, we're roughly in the same point. And so I reached out to him. I was like, hey, because it sucks when you get something that was like, well, how do I get that? Meaning they imply that like, oh, it'd be so easy. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, we've been doing a lot of the same stuff. What would it like? Do you think they let me audition for that? Like kind of that thing. And he hooked it all up and made it happen. But it just goes back to like what we were talking about earlier, where it's like knowing exactly where you're at, but also risking it. Like, I wasn't ready for that comedy special. They were like, do you have 40 minutes clean? I was like, sure. I didn't. There's a joke on my comedy special I said for the first time on my comedy special, thinking they'd edit it out. And so it was like...
Was it good? Did you like it?
I thought they would edit more. So back when I did it, they were doing 40-minute comedy specials. No, it was about pudding. These are G-rated comedy specials. These are for Mormons by Mormons. The vice president of the company brought his 6-year-old daughter to my comedy taping. That's how clean it had to be.
Yeah, that's where Chris. That's where I'm going to make my money, on the church circuit.
You joke, but clean will buy you a house. That's the phrase in comedy. Clean headlining set will buy. You can go cruise ships. You can do all that shit.
Jokes aside, get dark podcasts, clean comedy. No, they'll never. A lot
of people do that. The people that I saw on cruise ships when I was doing them for that weird, depressing year, there were a lot of people who you'd see at clubs and stuff. It just pays good. So they don't put it on their website, but they're out there. Kristen Key, before she blew up, I did cruise ship work with Kristen Key, and she's phenomenal.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think I just like enjoy that kind of dad humor stuff. It's like part of my kind of lineage of comedy, whatever is in my brain and my family, how we approach funny in the world. So
when I was a few years in, I looked at all the material I had, and there were people posting on the groups and stuff like, oh, who can do clean? And I looked at it and I was like, man, if I change like 2 words, right, I'm clean.
Yeah.
And I never intended to be that way, but it just kind of worked out that way. And I'm glad I did it. And then I recorded my DryBar special and sort of put away a lot of that material. Now I'm fucking blue. And it's funny when people will come from the DryBar special, and I'll see them because they look like the Amish. They look so fucking Mormon. And almost always, if they talk to me afterwards, like, well, they're like, oh, I saw you from DryBar. Like, what'd you think about this? And it's always something like, it was interesting. I bet y'all never talk about squirting in your everyday life.
Dude, we got about 3.5 minutes until this wonderful chicken is up.
Oh, hell yeah.
A question I love to ask guests. Do you remember the first joke you ever wrote?
Yes. I remember it word for word.
You want to do it?
And I will preface it by saying it was the first... Well, it was the first...
It was 19...
I haven't told jokes in 50 years. Billy Wayne Davis. You know Billy Wayne?
No.
He's a great guy from Tennessee. I name drop at all good things. I'm just like, here's another guy I love.
Please do.
Yeah.
We only do ads for people we love here.
I love to gossip good things. I'm like, you know who's great?
Yeah, that's me too. Same.
Billy Wayne he's a headliner, and he's phenomenal. And he was a local comic in Seattle, and he was already headlining. But he would come to the open mics, and he would watch the open mics and go up, do long sets, and it was great. But I told this joke, and he came up to me afterwards, and he's a Tennessee guy, so he goes, hey, man, that's a closer. That's a closer, dude. I love that joke. That's a closer. And I proceeded to it was a first-year material joke. So the joke was, and I would never tell it now, but I was in Georgia. I was in Georgia. I just left, and I was looking back on stuff from Georgia, and there was a news story about a man who was caught in the woods and arrested because he was caught having sex with bears. And I went to tell my friend, I was like, hey, man, from back home, they caught a guy having sex with bears? And he went, yeah, what a homo. And I went, that's your reaction to that? I just told you a full-grown man went in the woods and fucked a wild animal, and you're going to question his sexuality? I think that's the straightest thing you can do. Go in the woods and rape a bear? How did they get him into the cop car? Now, I'm telling it much better than I told it back in the day. That's the thing. Is I don't tell people, oh, it's kind of funny. I go, yeah, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not how. Where would I even put that in my set? B, I was not telling it with that confidence of whatever. But that was the idea.
That's so funny. That's good. I love that. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, we're gonna pull these wings off and get to eating, folks. We'll try to record a little Patreon here of us marching down if you want to check that out.
How should I give a Patreon? How am I going to get these wings in my little mouth? Right? Does that do it? Is that what the people want? Ooh, I hope I have enough room in my little mouth for these wings.
There's going to be some of that, so you better hop over to patreon.com/intolerable.
Yeah.
You want to do an improv station identification for us? Kick us to break.
Yeah. Hey, it's 98.9 The Eagle. Ooga.
We'll be right back. We're back. We're live. It's the After Hours show, and our bellies are full of smoked wings. What do we?
I give it a 10 out of 10. Good wings.
My God, it gets right to the case here, folks. No decibels needed.
I'll overlook the exact insult that was the mayo conversation, but we'll get past that.
Hey, next time I will have mayo. I apologize.
I'd have brought my own. A little squeeze bottle in my pocket.
Wasn't in the rider.
It's just I sound like a comic roasting how white I am when I describe my actual joys. I'm like, make sure you got Mountain Dew and give me a little mayo for my chicken wings.
Mountain Dew Zero and mayo for the chicken.
Yeah,
wings.
well, you got to worry about your health. So I'm very healthy.
They're going to take away the food dyes in that soon, I think, probably, right?
No.
Oh, no. It's not going to be as... I mean, I'm a big Red 40 fan myself.
This is my Mountain Dew Zero is just me acknowledging that it's nice to be addicted to something because it feels good to scratch an itch.
Yeah, dude.
That's how I feel about it. If I never got it again, I think I'd be okay, but I enjoy it.
I mean, I need to cut down on the itches I scratch, that's for sure.
There you go.
That's tough. Well, we talked a lot about comedy. We could talk anything in this after hours about anything as deep and dark. I mean, we talked a little bit about politics and whatnot and how we don't know where the world's headed on our Patreon segment while we were eating those wings. But
yeah, you get to hear stuff that might get me arrested. Sign up for our Patreon or their Patreon.
What a good plug. This guy knows all about promo.
I fed all those chickens into my little...
Chris, we need to go to his promo school for sure. We have the Billy Anderson promotion school.
Hell yeah, man.
Dude, print me a piece of paper. It's worth as much as any other printed degree nowadays.
Oh yeah. The cool thing is you can just lie. They don't typically check. I'm not trying to get government clearance somewhere. You can just lie. I don't think...
Dude, nobody does any
people
checking.
give a fuck anymore. It's presidential. So
crazy the world.
I'll tell you, since you're going to meet Gabe, I want to try to, I'll shoot him a message and tell him to try to do this if he's coming through.
Yeah,
but
that'd be great.
Gabe's phenomenal. Gabe Rutledge. And I'd mentioned a story, and it's one of my favorite stand-up comedy stories, so I'll tell it to you.
Please.
So I was working, and I just recently headlined the Looney Bins, which was like sort of a nice moment for me, because when I was a newer comic, working at any club, especially one that was outside of the state, meant something. You know, you're like, oh, wow, I'm really doing it. You know, that like sort of, well, golly, I'm like a real comic now. But Gabe Rutledge submitted 4 names to the Looney Bins to feature. And out of the 4, I was 2. Another guy was a guy named Chase Myers, who's a very funny comic. And we got into the featuring. And back in the day when you did the Looney Bins, you would do it. They have Little Rock, Kansas, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, and you do 4 weeks. So you could stay on the road the whole time, and you do stuff in the middle. So as a young comic, you're not getting paid shit, and you still aren't. But you weren't getting paid shit back then. But it was still like, wow, I'm 4 weeks on the road, and so it was really good. And it was where I started cutting my teeth as a feature, and it meant something that Gabe Rutledge, who's a headliner I'd worked with a bunch, vouched for me. It was like a really, the longer you do this, the fewer and further between you get these moments of like, wow, what a bookmark moment, you know. And I worked there for a while, and you could, as a feature, you can do it like once a year or twice a year. And I started getting better, and I started headlining, and then eventually, and this is right before the pandemic, I was like, hey guys, like, I can't do this anymore because you're putting me with these old heads, these like not great headliners, and I'm burying them. Not because I'm great, because they're not good. You know, like, let's figure out where that compliment goes, you know? And then I'm sharing a comedy condo with them. To anybody who doesn't understand what that is, it's a house that they shove comics in that's covered in cum. Just covered in it. You wouldn't even know it looking at a black light because there's so much cum, you would just assume everything was clean. But nope, everything's dirty. Cumcoveredcomedycondo.com.
He owns that too, folks.
I don't. So, you know, it just would be awkward because I'd be with these guys who they know they're not doing well and they're not happy and they're insecure about it and their career's probably not where they want it to be. And now they've got this comic who's younger and they're not nice to be around. I got an angry text one time by a comic who I will not name, but he was supposed to be a special event comic at the club. And he sent me like an angry text message telling me to dial it back but I'm like, I'm doing well. How do you die? You want me to? I don't even know what that means. So the reason I say all this is because I was complaining about that to Gabe. I was like, Gabe, it's so frustrating. Because I've never had to say no. I've never been too good for a spot in my entire career. And my thing with them was not just, I won't do it. It was like, well, can you give me can we do co-headliners with another person who is kind of on the cusp? Can you give me a Sunday or a Thursday to headline my own so I can prove to you guys? Like, give me some way out of this. I don't mind proving myself, but I need to know that there's a way out, because at this point I'd already done DryBar. I had more credits than some of these people too, and I get it. To be empathetic, you're a club owner, you've been a club owner for 35 years, you've been booking some of these people for 20 years. To tell them you are no longer capable of working at my club is much harder than pissing off somebody you've known for 2 years who's an up-and-comer who may never even do anything else. I fully get it, but you have to at some point stop saying yes. And it's an important thing in your career. And
Tough thing.
I was actually talking with the current owner of the Looney Bin who he took it over. And he was asking, what's the reputation of the Looney Bin? I said, well, sadly, back in the day, it was a place you graduated out of. And a lot of people took pride in that. And so that's something he has to overcome now that he's doing amazing changes to the Looney Bin brand and everything, bringing great people. I headlined there, and Best Stelling was the Thursday headliner, and she's phenomenal.
Wow.
And I feel very proud to share a week in the same place as Best Stelling. So
yeah, she's awesome.
So this is back again right before the pandemic. It was probably 2019, and I'm working with Gabe in some fucking nowhere two-nighter gig in Oregon. And at that point, I'd already moved away, but it was good pay, so I was like, fuck it, I'll do it, right? So I'm doing this thing in Oregon, and I'm telling him the story, and I'm like, it's just so frustrating because I want to feature, but I like either put me with your better nights or give me some way to move up. And he was like, yeah, it happens. He gave me some really good advice. So the next night we're at the gig in like Southern Oregon, and the way the gig worked is the host would go up and do like 5 minutes. He's not really a comic, just someone who put on the show, you know? Then I would go do 30, and then she would do another 5. And then Gabe would do 45 minutes to an hour, right? So I went up, and I'd just come off of 4 weeks at the Looney Bin. I was feeling very, like I was on it, right? I felt very good about my 30. I crushed. I did very well. So Gabe comes up, and I can tell he's like pacing it weird because the woman's up there just being like, remember to fill out your cards or whatever, you know? And he goes, hey, man, watching you up there tonight, you did really well. And I can see why a headliner would be intimidated to follow you. And then I could tell he was just about to be called up, and he took a beat and he goes, a different headliner, and then went up and destroyed. I'm talking demolished the fucking place.
Yeah, dude.
Funniest thing that's ever happened to me.
So good.
And he's not like a cocksure shitty dude. He just was like,
that was his moment.
That was his moment to be like, you'll see it, kid. You'll see what's up. And it was so good. It was so funny.
That is legendary, dude. What a story. My God.
Such a good comic. Him and Laurie Kilmartin taught me how to headline. Laurie Kilmartin was doing her 50 jokes about my dead dad tour.
Wow.
And when she was doing that, and she came through Jai Tai because she was doing a casino gig, and then she came over and saw it was full. She's like, could I do a weekend here? We're like, if you want, you know, like Laurie Kilmartin, sure, if you want to. And so she did a 2-show weekend, filled it out. That was back when Kelsey Cook was in the community as a feature act. So it was it was a Kelsey Cook and Laurie Kilmartin. Great weekend of comedy.
My God.
At an 80-seat venue. Yeah, so it was awesome. But she showed me how she did it, where she put all of her jokes on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. Every joke started at a 3. If she did it on a night and it did well, she'd bump it up to a 4. And then if it did well again, she'd bump it up to 5. If it went past 5, it was done. She's going to go in the special. She'll just work on it later. If it did bad, she'd bump it down to a 2, to a 1. If it went past a 1, stop working on it. It's clearly not working. Give it up. If it jumped back and forth, you have until this date to figure out what's going in the special. And it was such a meticulous way of doing things that it hit me right where I needed to. It was like, oh, that's such a methodical way of doing it. And then Gabe taught me all of the soft skills, how to, I saw him crush to 3 people in a room of 300, like a big giant air hanger, and there was only 3 people spaced out in different spots. He still destroyed. Phenomenal comic.
Wow.
A top 10 comic for me, period. Not just people I know, just period.
Wow. Just because of who he is, stage presence, what would you say led into that?
I can't even quantify him. He's aggressively relatable. He's fairly clean. He'll sometimes dip into something dirty. This is for everybody or the Patreon?
This is for everyone, but if you need me to cut something, I could.
I'll tell you later.
Okay, that's fine.
But I've seen him do a dirty bit before, and it was, but he did get it destroyed. He's so good. But
sorry, it's a tough question because like you said, it's tough to quantify.
But I love that because there's some people I can quantify, but I like that it's just who he is, and he's he's not pandery at all. He's the king of callbacks. He taught me all about throwing a callback in. Where you just go oh, did he write this all at once? Because he'll tell you no, I piece it all and then I figure it out later. And he releases a special maybe once every 2 years, 3, but pretty consistently. They're all phenomenal. I don't mean to blow smoke up his ass. I just find him to be an inspirational person.
Yeah.
The fact that I got to work with him so much, and he blew up only in the last 2 years because he was so hard headed about not putting material out online.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, I don't know, I don't want to get rid of it. He was an old school guy. He was an old school Looney Bin special feature headliner and stuff. But once he did, he's so good that once he did, he blew up almost immediately. He's got I think 500,000 followers on Facebook now, and
good for him.
He does great, and he'd been filming. He had all the material.
Yeah,
and then he was putting off doing DryBar. because he's like, I don't know. But he did that. It all fell into place. Also, a guy named Brad Upton did the same thing from Seattle, who's another old school guy, where he had his DryBar. He was the #1 DryBar comic, and then started doing social media. And now at his, I think he's in his 60s. He's having the best career renaissance of his entire career.
Dude, that's just an inspiring story. I love stories like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're just grinding for the love, and they're just waiting, and it just happens finally.
Yeah. So when's he coming through?
You said in June, right? Or something like that? Gabe, when is he coming through?
No, Aaron Woodall's coming through in June.
Aaron,
You told me Gabe was coming.
Yeah, we've had posters around the club. I can't remember what date it is. Let me look it up real quick.
Well, while you do that, I'll... do you want to hear a different kind of comedy story? Billy Wayne Davis. So Billy Wayne Davis is a Tennessee. So I was in Seattle, and when I first started in Seattle, it was hard. I'm a Southern guy, I'm not aggressively Southern, but
September 4th, 5th, 6th.
September 4th, 5th, and 6th. Yeah. Come through Comedy Works and see Gabe Rutledge. If you are listening to this, I promise you, I will personally refund your ticket if you don't like it.
There it
That's
is.
how confident I am about him being phenomenal.
Love that.
And I don't have kids. A lot of stuff he talks about isn't even relatable to me, but it's still that good. He has a bunch of kids and a wife at home, and he talks about how he met his wife when just at a bar back before the internet existed, and you sort of find the hottest person willing to fuck you in town and shit.
Legend, dude.
Yeah, a bunch of kids and stuff. But so it was hard being in Seattle. People were not keen to trust my heart based on my Southern accent. People were kind of like, we'll see.
Interesting.
And I had a lot of growing up. I'm in my 20s. I'm in a big city for the first time ever. I'm sure I was probably unknown to me, probably doing things that were people like, I don't know about this guy, right? But it was hard. And I'm as far away from the Southeast as possible in a country that in any other country would be 50 countries, So culturally, it was very different. And I consider myself very liberal where I grew up, but then I moved there and I'm practically center of the road just because that's I'm in a liberal neighborhood in a very liberal city, so it was hard, but him and a couple other guys, there was a few of us Southern people, right? And so I'm trying to write material that's relatable to Seattle people. And so it was very nice to have him around, and he was a headliner. But what he did do back then that he doesn't do anymore is drink a ton. He was, by his own words, an alcoholic back then. And boy, was he. And it was funny, though, because when you're from the South, there are people there's just a type of guy in the South that's going to be kind of walk up to you and pretend to punch you in the belly and be like, what's up, fuckface? That kind of a dude. Not secure enough to give you a hug, but he'll just be like, what's up, queer? He don't mean anything, but he wants you to be like, nothing much, queer. I'm like, all right, we can hug. We could just hug.
Yeah.
But I guess if this is what you want. Yeah, exactly. He just wants to love you.
Exactly. I know exactly.
But people in Seattle didn't get that. And I always said Seattle is full of school shooters who never pulled the trigger. It was a lot of awkward people.
What a great joke. It's so true.
It was. So I just could not. Because again, where I grew up, I was not the most outgoing. I was kind of middle of the road. And out there, you'd have thought I was a social fucking butterfly, because it's all tech guys and alternative. It just wasn't a group of people that knew how to be,
right.
So we're in we're doing an
city.
Well, we're doing an open mic at the Crocodile in Seattle, which the Crocodile is known almost exclusively for being where Nirvana got their start and everything.
Whoa.
Cool indie music venue with a lot of history. So of course comics are let's shove comedy into it. Nobody will love it. It'll be great, and. Because comics, especially there, but I think everywhere, they try to make comedy cooler than it is. Comedy, when it's done well, is cool. You don't have to be but what if we all had guitars? And so they're trying to do it there, and I just went because I was like, this is going to be miserable. I know enough about how the world works to know there's nobody going to historic indie rock venue, the Crocodile, to be let's watch people tell dick jokes.
It's so true.
So it was a horrible open mic, and so we're drinking at the bar afterwards.
It's an open mic, not even a show?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, an open mic. Yeah, let me make a big point to say, even if it was a show, it would have been bad, but it was an open mic, so it was horrible. So
the patient's dead.
Yeah, it's bad. And so we're drinking afterwards because we're I don't want to go home because then if I drink, I'll have done something productive tonight, And so we're drinking, and Billy Wayne comes up to us, and he is one eye drooping drunk, gone, as was tradition at the time. And so he comes up to us and he goes, it's me and a guy named Evan, and he goes, you two on a date? And I'm laughing already because I'm just oh, that Billy, But Evan, who is, again, probably in his city for the first time, he's a Washington resident, but this is his, he gets very insecure because it's somebody further along in the scene seemingly bullying him because he doesn't know. He's probably been bullied in his life. Like, I can empathize all day long, but how he handled it made his life worse. Is he just goes, "We're not gay, Billy," and I'm like, "Oh no." I'm like, "That's not how you react to that guy." You go, "What's up? You just leave your date or whatever?" And he goes, punches you in the gut and walks away, and you had a pleasant experience,
Right?
But he didn't know that, so he goes, "We're not on a date," and so Billy Wayne doubles down, as is tradition in the Southern thing. Is if you get pushback, now you're gonna mess with them further. So he goes, "You two look like you're on a date. You're looking so pretty. I just figured y'all are on a date. You buy each other a drink." That kind of just prodding, right? So the guy starts to get red in the face. He gets red in the face. He goes, "We're not on a date because we're not gay, Billy." And then he comes up and he just goes, "Listen, you guys are clearly in denial. You two should kiss each other." Just right here in front of me, you two should kiss. And the guy's like, "No," and he's just fucking kiss. He will not let it go. He's like, "I'll be here. I'll take a picture. It'll be your first date. Just kiss." Just bully. I mean, at that point, it is bullying. I will acknowledge it went from a pleasant hello to inarguably bullying.
Right.
But so the guy goes, he screams, he yells. He goes, "We're not going to kiss because we're not fucking gay." And Billy now, because he's been so aggressive, drunk Billy now turns to aggro mode a little bit. Like, "How dare you yell at me?" So he walks up to the guy and he goes, "You think you got to be gay to kiss a man? Is that what you think?" And then he grabs me by the face, kisses me wet on the cheek, and then gets back in the guy's face, bows up to him and goes, "Wasn't nothing gay about that." And walked away.
Legend, dude. Dude, and there is nothing gay about that. He kissed his homie goodnight and he walked off. Irish goodbye. I
told him the next day what happened. I go, "Do you remember what happened?" He goes, "No, I was on one." And I told him, and he just went, "Sounds like me."
Lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, man. I love that
so
story.
Good, dude. Wow. Do you remember any of like those early road days? Were you in like, opening for people or driving, whatever?
I think the only person of note that I opened for, but it's so there's a phrase in comedy like, "I open for so and so," and a lot of people use it when they're like on a showcase with somebody, or just they got booked without. Like, my opinion is, if you say "I open for so and so," they should be going, "I picked them and asked them to open for me."
Got it.
Because if not, it doesn't really mean anything,
right.
Because you could say I opened for Nate Bargatze, but we were in it was like a gig in Central Washington. They needed an opener, and the booker found somebody. He didn't ask for me. Gotcha. It was me and Gabe, actually.
Interesting.
And it was a great show, and I had good. And Nate was phenomenal and a great guy to meet, but like, he wouldn't remember my name. So if I put that on my resume, it would be disingenuous. I might as well just lie at that point.
Gotcha.
I might as well just
going back to your
make shit up.
You could just lie. Yeah. Right.
If you're going to bend the truth that much. So I would say, like, again, nobody that's asked for me, but I worked at clubs. One of my favorite weekends was opening for Miss Pat.
She is so fucking funny.
She had a rule. She said nobody could say fuck before her, which I think it makes sense because people get tired of it if you're doing it enough. So she'd be like, "I want clean openers."
Nice.
And then she would make fun of how clean we were, even though it was something she asked for, which I respect.
That's funny.
I'll say road days. I'll say this has become a story. It's a story I was telling before he got some fame, but it's funnier now. Is Hans Kim of Kill Tony fame featured for me on my first headlining. It was his first feature weekend at a club, and it was my first headlining feature at our club.
Whoa.
And it was Comedy Underground in Seattle, which the early shows were always okay. The late shows were, you'd be like, "Why do you even do these?" A lot of, there'd be 20 people in a 180 person room. There'd be plenty of people who could fill it out, but I wasn't going to on the summer weekend off night, whatever, In Seattle, much like Denver, it's so shitty most of the year that in the summer it's way harder to get people out.
Right.
So it was a late show Friday, which is what Steve Martin said he quit comedy over. It's late show Friday. And he's up there.
Animals come out on late show Friday.
It's just people who are already wasted, and tired. So it was maybe 20, 30 people. If there were 30 people, that would be an overestimate, I think. So he's struggling, which is, again, it's not to make fun of his ability as a comic. It was a struggle night, It's not like the host did much better. And he did good in the early shows and late shows. I guess I want to be very specific with this. He started trying to kick somebody out because they wouldn't shut up. And me being the prick that I am, I went to the manager and he goes, "Should you kick him out?" Like, "Nah, let him. He needs to feel this." I said, he doesn't get to kick people out. He's not the headliner. Headliner gets to choose. You don't get to go, "I kick this person out." Your feature. Struggle through it, So he waffled because it was horrible. And he
Did
told
the guy deserve to get picked up?
it was a lady, but that's just your bigotry coming out there to assume.
Well, hey, wouldn't it be worse if I assumed the other way around?
Yes, I mean societally, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be on team good. I got my
trying to be on the right side of history.
Listen,
here, Billy.
I get my cabal boss every morning with the current rules. I know what to say. And...
Exactly, dude. In baby's blood, as we all know.
Well, you got to.
You ever seen a baby, dude? They're fucking full of blood. Come on, they can spare a little blood.
Classic Seattle people. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm like, ugh, fat baby could use a little bloodletting. So he tells the same joke twice because he got so in his head. Again, this is early in his career. Again, no disrespect to him, but he told the same joke twice. And so I was so tickled by that. I went up and this was like maybe my second show headlining. I just went, all right, guys, let's hear it for Hans, and let's not pretend like we didn't hear him tell that joke twice.
Oh no!
And so I think the only way out of this is for me to tell it a third time. And it wasn't that I did; it's just the audacity of it. The crowd loved it, and I just said, "See, Hans, that's why you're the feature, and I'm the headliner," and winked at him, and then proceeded to have to kick the lady out anyway. So to give him credit in that story, it would have been the right choice to kick her out. She was horrible. And a crowd of the Seattle sweet people, because I was like, I was sad. I don't take pride in having to kick somebody out. I don't typically get a lot of people who heckle. But it was sad. And at one point I was like, she got kicked out. They had to kick her out and she ran off. And so I asked the waitress, I was like, well, did you at least get a credit card from there? Like, oh, I got it. And then she went back into the room and yelled, I got more money than everybody in this room. And a crowd of sweet Seattle soft people booed her on her birthday. It was her birthday. And the crowd booed her. And because at first I was like, no. And I was like, all right, guys, crowd speaks. Boo her. I guess on her birthday. Boo her.
Bitch deserves it, apparently.
I wish I had video of the whole thing. I wish I had video of it.
Oh my goodness. That's legendary.
Yeah. So Hans Kim, there's a guy that couldn't have given fame to a person more certain he was going to get it than Hans Kim. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Was he like it back then? Even then,
he's the same person now as he was. But it's like his comedy's very similar. I actually started a show in Seattle because of Hans Kim.
Really?
So Seattle was not Hans was not well-liked man of the people in Seattle because I think he would argue his personality is what it is. But he was funny. He would do well on our shows. He wasn't always very politically correct, but he did it in such a ridiculous way. They did well. And so people wouldn't book him though, because they didn't like him, because that's a comedy scene for you. A lot of times it is who you like more than, and I was always borderline Asperger-ishly focused on who was actually funny, not who was my friend. I took a lot of joy in creating good comedy lineups, people who played off each other well, etc. So it kind of hurt, even though, because I'll give you an example of the kind of man Hans was. We would have a full open mic, right? And when you're doing an open mic and it's full and there's a comic sitting in the crowd, you get the fuck up and you let a real person sit down. That's the rule, right? I know you want to sit there and work on your jokes, but it helps everybody the more butts we have in seats that are real people. And we'd always have to tell them 2 or 3 times, but get the fuck out of here, huh? Well, I go out here early. I was like, if you don't understand this, just fuck off and do what I'm saying instead of let's have a conversation about it. And again, he didn't mean anything by it, but he just didn't quite get it and he was a much younger man then too, early 20s. So I created a show called Comedy on Trial, which was 8 comics doing 8 minutes each. And it was a voting card. So the audience voted and you have 1, 2, 3 votes. So you vote for your friend and then the 2 obvious winners. That's almost always how it went. But I did it because I was like, I think we need something that's just, it's a middle ground between open mic and showcase. Because we were doing them every week. So everybody got a chance to do it. But it allowed a pecking order to emerge, which I think is important. Again, you have to respect someone else so you can say, I want to be that good and get better. And I told people, I guarantee you, I'm almost certain Hans is going to win this year. If I do this, I bet you he'll win it. And he fucking won that year. Because he was just he was tighter than a lot of people in the things that comedy competitions reward. And so I always think about that when I think about seeing his success and stuff, is I'm like, yeah, I mean, he was always funny.
That's hilarious. What a good Hans Kim story.
Yeah.
Man, from these early Seattle days. Well, I don't want to hold you up too long. Thank you so much for coming on my silly little show and giving me some of your time today on this Saturday. Have you heard of England before in your life, Billy?
The country?
Oh, those niggas with the peas and mash?
Yeah, the country.
That's how I refer to them, word for word.
Disrespect England. Well, they do this thing over there called knighting. You've heard of this?
Yeah.
You gotta call people sir.
Like
after
daytime, nighttime. Yeah.
Yeah, daytime, nighttime. You get it. Well, here at Top Shelf Studios, after a long form conversation, I am pleased to give you the heighting. I'm doing the heighting. Give you a heart height, because all my life people have been like, "Hey, can I get a couple inches? How's the weather up there?" Because I'm in this large frame.
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me for a couple inches.
Well, maybe once or twice.
Never.
Well, now I got this prefrontal lobe. They say I'm like, oh, I'm waking up in a vehicle every day. It's a meat suit. It's just we're all just waking up and operating in these meat suits vehicles, but we judge each other on these vehicles more than almost anything else in our lives.
Yeah.
It's very silly to me. So after a long form conversation, I'm just pleased to give you a heart height. How tall do you stand physically? 5'10", right?
5'10".
Billy Anderson. I heart height thee 6 foot.
Oh my goodness.
6. That's a tall heart. You might have to later in life get a procedure done.
Shit, if I'd have been 6 foot, I might not ever dropped out of high school. That's good.
But you wouldn't ended up being the hilarious man you are now.
No.
All the steps along the way.
Just like happy or something. Who needs that?
I think that's fake too.
Yeah, boo. Boo, happiness.
I studied it for a while. I think it's fake.
I think they're making it up.
Where can the people check you out? You got any shows coming up?
Yeah, if they go to BillyAnderson.com, you can find my dates at Instagram at Why Not Billy, though, has all of it. Gateway show, we're about to be in April, so there's a lot of April 420 sort of events we're doing. The biggest one is we'll be in Sacramento, California on Sunday, April 20th, 600-seat theater. Get tickets while they're available. We're definitely going to sell out. It's a ton of fun.
That's going to be so sick, dude. Congratulations. Yeah. Wow, man. Well, go check out his website. Follow him. Support him. He's going to be all around town. He's part of the scene now. So
I am.
I'm so grateful.
I'm genuinely, last thing to say, I'm genuinely so excited to be a part of a comedy scene again, something I respect, with a bunch of hardworking people that I'm excited to see grow along with me.
Oh, my goodness, dude. My heart overfloweth for thou.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Billy. Thanks for giving us your time. Thanks for liking, subscribing, doing whatever you can to push us through this fake algorithm that keeps changing all the time that we don't get the notes for. So patch up your friends, pick up your loved ones, be good in the world. Fuck off and be well.